Good morning. We will pay attention to the reconciliation of the control accounts with the debtors list and creditors list. First of all, if we look at this question, you can see that they give you all the entries that was already recorded and posted to the ledger. So the first thing that we will do is we will determine if the amounts are supposed to be in this account. If it's something that's not supposed to be posted to this account, we will remove it. And if it's on the wrong side of the account, we will add it to the correct side of the account. So if we look at the balancing figure here, you see that the balance is 35821, and I started there with a balance, and in the creditors control, the balance is 37,900. Okay, so in the debtors control, these creditors allowances. Creditors allowances has nothing to do with debtors. So we must take this out and take it to the creditors control account. So in the creditors control account, on the debit side, we will indicate the creditors allowances. So creditors allowances decreases the creditors account on the debit side, and we posted this from the creditors allowances journal 245. Okay, this next one is cash sales. Cash sales is not in the debtors control. This must be posted to the bank account, so this must not go in here at all. Then there's bad debts. Bad debts decrease my debtors, so that should be on the credit side. So I will indicate on the credit side of my debtors control, journal credits, that is posted from the general journal, and the bad debts is 689. Because there can be additional entries, I will show the calculations just below the words to indicate how do I get the figure that I will put in the column for the debtors control. Okay, then there's bank debtors column 161,300. This is out of the cash receipts journal, so it means the bank was debited. This amount must go to the credit side of my debtors control account. Okay, so before I carry on, I first just want to explain this entry, because this is one of the areas where you make a lot of mistakes. If I have the cash receipts journal, I will have a bank column and a debtors control column and a discount allowed column. So it means if I receive money, I will indicate the amount in the bank, and so for instance 1,000 rand. Then I allow 100 rand discount. So in the debtors control, I will indicate 1,100. And the 1,100 is the amount that I will take to the debtors control on the credit side. So when you get one of these entries, you must read it very carefully. If you see that they say bank debtors column, it means that they are giving you the figure in the debtors control column, and this figure already includes the discount. So it means I mustn't add this 18,500, because that was already included when we added the bank and the discount to get the total of the debtors control column. If, for instance, they said here bank EFT payments, then it means that amount was the one that was in the bank. Then I will take that and I will add the discount. So if the word here was bank EFT payments, I would take the 161,300 and add the 18,500. Because it's the total column, I will not add the discount in this case. Okay, then there's sales returns. Sales returns decreases my debtors, so it should go on the credit side. So I will indicate the debtors allowances, transferred from the debtors allowances journal, and the amount is 3,080. Okay, bank cash payments journal. So if it's out of the cash payments journal, the bank was credited, so the debtors control should be debited. Okay, then credit sales increases my debtors, so it should be on the debit side. And the sales, we get that figure from our debtors journal, and then again there could be additional entries, so I will show it in brackets again. Okay, if I look at my creditors control, the balance is on the credit side. Then they show me here total purchases. Now, because they say total purchases, this is an indication to me that there could be changes for these purchases, that some of it could be credit and some of it could be cash, or that there must be adjustments. So although it's on the correct side, I will leave a space where I can add figures. So on the credit side, I will show sundry accounts for all the purchases of, for instance, the trading stock stationery equipment, and that is posted from the creditors journal, and they give me the figure as 59,000. Okay, on the debit side, it's bank and discount received, so it means that is the figure that comes out of the cash payments journal, and this is on the correct side. Okay, and that figure is 39,500. So if they give us the ledger accounts and they indicate all the different figures that was posted from the various journals, you first have to determine if they added it correctly, whether it was on the correct side of the ledger, whether it's not supposed to be there, and then you must put it on the correct side and remove the figures that's not supposed to be there. Okay, then we will look at this additional information. Now remember, if we had a mistake in the journal, it means the total of the journal is incorrect, and that incorrect amount will be transferred to the individual account in the subsidiary ledger. So if there's a mistake in the journal, you will correct it in the control account and on the list. If only the total in the journal is incorrect, you will only correct it in the control account. And if an individual entry is incorrect, you will only correct it in the subsidiary ledger. That could be the debtors list or creditors list. Okay, so the first one here, they say no entry was recorded when the lawyer of the insolvent estate of C. Brown notified Amorite traders that 40 cents in the rand of the outstanding debt of 400 will be paid on the 2nd of July. You can't record anything that you will receive this money on the 2nd of July. We can only record entries up to the end of June. So there mustn't be any entry for the 40 cents. The rest of the amount must be written off. So if they paid their total debt, they would pay 100%. We receive, and they say 40 cents in the rand, so we will receive 40% of that amount, and the discount so the amount that we will write off as the bad debts will be 60%. Okay, now you must read very carefully to determine if this 400 is the amount that we receive or whether it's the debt. And here they say the outstanding debt of 400. So it means next to the word debt, I must indicate the 400. So if I want the bad debts, the percentage that I want over the percentage that I know times 400, and that will give me 2,240. Okay, so I must record the entry now for the 240. No entry was recorded, so it means I have to record it in the debtors control and in the debtors list. So in my control account, bad debts is written off in the general journal. So in the general journal, I will show that there will be an additional 240 on the credit side. And then in my debtors list, I will indicate that this information was about C. Brown. So we have to record this information in his personal account, and that is the 400 times 60%, and that will give me 240. And the account will be decreased with the amount that we have to write off. Okay, a receipt was issued and recorded when a direct deposit of 240 was received from the insolvent estate of P. Lowe as a final payment of 60 cents in the rand. Okay, so here again, if he paid his total debt, he would pay 100%. We will receive 60%, and the bad debts will be 40%. Okay, now we must determine again whether this amount is the money received or whether it's the outstanding debt. And here they say it's a direct deposit of 240. So that is the amount that we receive, so we will show the 240 next to the 60%. If I want the bad debts, the percentage that I want, 40, over the percentage that I know, 60, times 240, and that will give me 160 rand. Okay. The receipt was issued and recorded, so we mustn't do anything for the receipt. We must only record the bad debts that's written off. Okay, so in the general journal again, I will indicate that we will decrease the debtors with an additional 160 rand, and then in the account of P. Lowe, we will indicate that this account will be decreased with 160 rand. Okay. The bookkeeper neglected to transfer a debit balance of 58 in the account of Aris in the creditors ledger to his account in the debtors ledger. Now, when you have to do this transfer, rather do T accounts, because you always make mistakes with this specific entry. So just draw 2 T's, and the one is a debtor and the other one is a creditor. They say it's a debit balance, so the debit balance can either be in the debtors or in the creditors, and they say it's in the creditors ledger. So it means this balance is in the creditors ledger on the debit side. So if I want to transfer it, I must take it out on the opposite side. So I will credit the creditors control and I will debit the debtors control. And no entry was recorded for this, so we will have to record it in the debtors control account and creditors control account and in the lists. Okay, so in the debtors control, we have to show that we have to debit it with 58 Rand. That entry will be done in the general journal, so we will indicate here journal debits. And it's 58. And then in the creditors control, we also have to show that we will take it out on the credit side, the 58. So journal credits. And when I go to the debtors list and the creditors list, we will also record it there. So in Ari's account, we showed in the debtors that it must go on the debit side and the creditors on the credit side. So in the debtors list, we will show the 58 on the debit side, and in the creditors list, we will show the amount for Ari's on the credit side, 58. Okay, no entry was recorded when Yellow settled his account of 550 after 10% discount was allowed. So no entry, that means we have to record it in the control accounts and in the list. This is a debtor, so it means that I have to show that the debtor's account will decrease with the full 550. And in my debtors control account, I will also indicate the 550, and I will show that that will increase the amount of money in the bank. Okay, the reason why I don't show the discount separately is that they say the settled his debt of 550. So it means I would normally say, okay, I allow 55 Rand discount and I only receive 495. Then I add the bank amount and the discount together and it gives me 550. So that's the reason why I just put the 550, because eventually I can either put it as two figures or I can just show one figure. The overdue account of a debtor, Julie's, was debited with 18 Rand interest, but no entry was recorded in the subsidiary journal. Okay, so if we look at this entry, it was debited. So it means they've already recorded it into the personal account of this person, but it was not recorded in the subsidiary journal, so it was not recorded in the debtors control. If we do interest on a debtor, we will record it in your general journal. So it means that I will add the 18 Rand to indicate that the debtor owes me 18 Rand more. Okay, the receipts of a debtor, 161,300. That's the amount that we took from the account where they gave us the information. Included an amount of 75 recovered from Purple, a debtor whose account had been written off as bad debts during the previous year. The error did not affect the debtor's ledger, so there's not a mistake in the individual account, there's only a mistake in the debtor's control. Okay, so if I have a bank column and a debtor's control and a sundries column, they say here that we received the 75, we recorded it in the bank, and it was recorded 75 recovered whose account had been written off during the previous year. So we showed that 75 in the debtors control. When we posted it to the ledger, we debited the bank with that 75 and we credited our debtors control with 75. Okay. Now that 75 is not supposed to be there, because after you've written off bad debts, you close the account of the customer, and it means it will, you can never write in his account again. So to correct this mistake, I will debit my debtors control and I would credit bad debts recovered with a 75. So that 75 was not supposed to be included in this 161,300. So I can just subtract the 75 there and indicate that it should not form part of that entry. An entry in respect of credit sales of 600 less 15% trade discount was correctly recorded in the journal, so there's no mistake in the journal, therefore there's no mistake in the debtors control. But it was posted to the credit side of the account of a B Orange. Okay, so we must first determine what is the amount. So I would work out 15% on that, and that would give me 90 Rand. So it means the amount for the credit sales is basically 510 Rand. Okay, now when we sell goods, you should record it on the debit side, the 510. So that is what we want. They say that they posted it to the credit side. So the actual entry that was done was on the credit side, 510. That is incorrect. So what do? I have to debit my debtors control with 510 to remove the incorrect entry. But this is what I want in my account. So that is now naught. So I have to do another 510 for the actual entry. So what I will do is I have to put 1,020 on the debit side of my debtors list. Okay, so double the amount. A credit note for 300 issued to A Steyn was treated as an invoice in the subsidiary journal. So if we make a mistake in the journal, it means that we have to correct it in the control account and in the list. It was a credit note. It was treated as an invoice. So in my debtors control, I must indicate with the sales that I have to take this 300 out because it was not sales. And for the debtors allowances, I must add the 300 to show that the debtors allowances should actually be more. When I go to my debtors control account, in the debtors list, A Steyn, it means that I put it on the wrong side of the account. And they say here that it was a credit note for 300, so we were supposed to put it on the credit side. We put it on the debit side because we treated it as an invoice, so now I must take it on the credit side, 600, to correct that incorrect entry on the debit side and do the correct entry on the credit side. An invoice issued to K White for 550 was recorded in the subsidiary journal as 505. So I made a mistake in the journal again, so I must correct it in the list and in the debtors. Okay, so if I do an invoice, it will be part of this debtors journal because I sold the goods. We made a mistake of 45, so I must indicate that the amount was supposed to be 550. We only showed 505, so it should be 45 Rand extra. to get it to the 550. Then in the account of K White, we will also have to indicate that White owes an additional 45 Rand. So it's the difference between the 550 and the 505. The account of B White for 108 was written off in the debtors ledger, but no entry was recorded in the subsidiary journal. So it means you mustn't record the entry in the account of B White in the debtors ledger because it was already recorded. We must just go and show that this amount must go to my debtors control. This is amount that is written off, so it means I will do it in my general journal, so there will be another 108 Rand. An EFT for 800 to Posma Traders in settlement of his account after 20% discount was received was recorded in the bank column and the debtors control column in the cash payments journal. Okay, so if we'd first do the 800, we issued an EFT for 800, so the debt would be 100%, the discount was 20%, and the paid amount is 80%. And they say to us that they paid 800, so the paid amount was 800, so the discount would be the one that I want, 20 over the 80, and that would give me 200 Rand. So in the creditors ledger, we have to show that Posma Traders, we owe 1,000 Rand less because it's for the 800 and the 200. So the creditors account will be decreased on the debit side with 1,000. Now in the debtors ledger, we showed the amount as 800 and it was in the bank and the debtors control, so we have to show that it mustn't go into the debtors list. So I will show the Posma here again. And the entry that we recorded was only 800, so it means that I will show that this 800 should not be there on the debit side, and I will show it on the credit side, the 800. When we go to the creditors control account, the bank and discount amount will be the 800 plus the 200, so we will show that we owe our creditors 1,000 Rand less. In the debtors control, where we showed that we received the money in the bank, I will show in the cash payments, I must decrease this with 800 because it was not supposed to be in the debtors control. Then of the total purchases of 59,000 Rand, 20% was purchased for cash. So it means the credit was only 80%. So the amount that I must show here for credit purchases should be 47,200. Now we've recorded all the entries. So what I do now is I just add or subtract the figures to see what is the total figure that must be recorded in the column. And I will add these figures, subtract plus 45, and this will give me 178,925. And in the journal debits, we will add the two together, 76. Bank and discount will be 161,775. I will add all these figures together, and that will give me 1197, and those two will give me 3380. So I will add up the debit side first to get the total. I will put that same total on the credit side, and I will calculate what is the balancing figure. And the balancing figure is the difference between the total on the debit side and the amount on the credit side, and that will give me 49083. Okay, so it means that my debtors control balance will be 49083. Okay, in my debtors list, I will add up the debit side and I will add up the credit side. So this side, the total will be 51393 and the credit will be 2350. So in the debtors list, I will indicate that I will take the 51393, subtract the 2350, and that will also give me 49083. That's an indication that we corrected all the mistakes and omissions. If I look at my creditors control, creditors always has a credit balance, so I will first add up the credit side, and I will add get the total on the credit side, 85158. Here I have to subtract 1,000 plus is 40,500, and I can work out what is the difference between the debit and the credit side, and that will give me a balance of 42,253, so that the totals on both sides will be the same. And then on the 1st of July, I will bring down this balance on the credit side, 42253, and we will add up my debtors. On the debit side of the creditors list is 1,000, on the credit side is 43253. So if I take the 43253 and I subtract the 1,000, I also get 42,253. Okay, if you do this in a test and this doesn't work out, please don't go and look for the mistake. Carry on with your next question, because you waste too much time trying to sort out the problem, and you might have one mistake, so you will still get almost all your marks. So just leave it if it doesn't balance.